From 1772 to 1805 in Massachusetts, a woman named Mercy Otis Warren gained the responsibility as a patriot writer to persuade her readers to join the patriot cause to win their rights in the colonies from the British Empire. Warren made a major impact by helping build up the patriot side during the American Revolution, leading to more people fighting for freedom of themselves and the future of the country of the United States of America. Mercy Otis Warren was born on September 25, 1728, in Barnstable, Massachusetts, as the third of 13 children to Mary Aline and Colonel James Otis. Warren, as a child, first learned about house chores and the little responsibilities women were allowed to learn during the time, until her father allowed her to learn alongside her two older brothers. One of her older brothers, named James Otis Jr., she grew quite close to. All three of them were taught by her Yale graduate uncle, Jonathan Russell, where she learned to read and write. As she got older, her love for reading grew, and she spent hours in the family library reading various books, mainly history books and poetry. As Warren got older, she met Abigail and John Adams, who were years younger than her. She was a mentor to Abigail and taught her how to have her own opinion. Her brother James went to Harvard and made a friend named James Warren, which Mercy then later married when she was 26. Her husband was a member of the House of Representatives, her father was a legislator for the state, and her brother was an activist. All three of them talked about politics a lot to Mercy, which she loved hearing. Warren and her family hated the colonial governor, causing her to protest against him, and later got beaten by British officers. Warren, after the incident, wanted to be an activist like her brother, which launched the idea of her becoming a writer and writing about the rights and freedom of the colonists and colonies. Many agreed with the idea of independence, which led to George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, John and Samuel Adams to meet with the Warrens at their house to have a meeting to figure out how they could gain independence from the British in a responsible way, which later became the Committee of Correspondence, which Mercy founded herself. Warren was encouraged by her family to start writing, which she then released her first play into local papers such as the Massachusetts Spy and the Boston Gazette. She released her first play anonymously in 1772 called The Adulator, which she wrote about the wrongs of British rule and how they are neglecting the rights of the colonists, using characters such as Brutus as the hero, which she based on her brother, and Rapido as the colonial governor, Thomas Hutchinson. She then made a second part to it called The Defeat, where she continued the storyline of abused rights and lack of responsibility of Hutchinson. She then released The Group, which was a different story. She released a lot of smaller poems along with plays, but she kept writing anonymously, since she was a woman and tried to stay within the gender norms of the time, which caused her to build up the patriot side, with a lot of people listening to her as she wrote about the British abusing the rights of colonies and how she, as a writer, fulfilled her responsibility of writing to the colonies. Warren didn't personally approve of the mistreatment of Native Americans and enslaved people along with her family. A year after she started writing, the Boston Tea Party happened, which she fully supported since the British started having various acts such as the Sugar Act, Stamp Act, Townshend Act, and the stationing of British redcoats in Boston. After the event, John Adams asked her to write about it in a play she called The Squabble of the Sea Nymphs. With the success of the Tea Party, her story became quite read, and more colonists supported her idea of fighting for their own rights. Years after, when the Declaration of Independence was adopted into the colonies, Warren liked the idea. Not everyone, even with the American Army's victory, which encouraged her to write about the Loyalists, which she called the Blockheads. It was also during the time when she began to write about the rights of women in the colonies, arguing for fair rights of other women, including her arguing that women should have rights to a fair education. Later, when the Constitution was written, she began to disagree with it and became an anti-federalist. She released observations on the new Constitution and later a pamphlet called The Columbia Patriotic Transit Gloria, where she sided with anti-federalists. In 1779, she released another play called The Motley Assembly, which she asked Washington for approval before releasing the play, which she wrote mainly about freedom. During the 1780s, she didn't release much, mainly due to the health of her husband, but in 1790, she released a book of all her plays with 2 new additional plays about women's rights. The first taking place in 16th century Spain, called The Ladies of Castile, and the second taking place during the fall of the Roman Empire, called The Sack of Rome. She still paid attention to politics while she wrote about women's rights, and with Abigail Adams started Republican Motherhood in the 1790s, where they gained the responsibility to teach their sons about politics. And the 1790s ended, and the early 1800s rolled in. Warren's health started to decline as she began having trouble reading and severe headaches, causing her to have her eldest son write for her. She released in 1805, under her actual name, History of the Rise, Process, and Termination of the American Revolution, which was a 3-volume history of the American Revolution from her perspective. Finally, in 1814, the time caught up to Warren as she finally passed at the age of 86. Warren had little to do shortly after with things relating to her after her death, but she did help influence a few other women during the time, but more came years later. Warren helped give women the opinion to think and to make choices for themselves, along with her argument that women should have a fair education and equal rights to men. She led others to rise up and speak for themselves, and her letters and works are some of the earliest works by a woman explaining what the days were like in the early United States. She might have been neglected for quite a lot during her days during the American Revolution, but Mercy Otis Warren was responsible for building up the Patriot side in Massachusetts colonies and argued that fair rights for the colonists from the British Empire. Later, the fair rights of women. She is quite ignored when most people learn about the American Revolution, but she is an important historical figure in arguing for rights of women and everyone during the American Revolution.